In today's video, I want to go over what Hidetaka Miyazaki, creator of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, said at Reboot Develop, a boutique games industry event in Croatia, and it opened with a keynote featuring him and the Shadow of the Colossus creator Fumito Ueda, and they talked about how much they emphasize gameplay in their game creation. However, Hidetaka Miyazaki also mentioned how he would love to create a narrative-driven game, and he actually referenced one game as a point of inspiration that I find very interesting, so I wanted to talk a little bit about that and what we could see from him in the future. Speaking of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, it was a foregone conclusion that that game was going to do incredibly well from a commercial standpoint. However, now we have specific numbers of how that game did in its first 10 days, and it has done very, very well, as said by an Activision press release. We'll go over that. Also, Guerrilla Games is next game. They've been MIA for a little bit. Horizon Zero Dawn released over 2 years ago at this point. We know they're hard at work at a new game. Could it be a Horizon Zero Dawn sequel? We know at some point that's probably going to happen. However, Guerrilla Games is a very interesting job listing that points towards a multiplayer game, and that's pretty interesting as Guerrilla is mostly known for their work on a multiplayer game franchise. We'll go over that, and I'll talk about my speculation and my anticipation at the possibility of a new Killzone. The reviews for Earth Defense Force Iron Rain have also come out. The game is doing okay from a review standpoint. This is a game that I mentioned you guys should probably wait on a sale for, and the reviews kind of point to that. Released at a $59.99 price point, it was kind of hefty, but I do want to go over what some of the reviews are saying. Also, and lastly, I do want to give you guys an insight on the top 10 most downloaded games on the PlayStation Store for the month of March. Some games might surprise you, others were kind of to be expected to be ranked as highly as they were, so more on that at the end of this video. First up, I really want to talk about what Miyazaki said at this Reboot Development Conference, and specifically they talked about how important gameplay is and how important gameplay is to implement in their games, and they really think about story and narrative at the end of the gameplay design to accentuate the overall art form, and the story is more of an augmentation to the gameplay that's already in place. However, Miyazaki did mention he would love to one day create a game that the story is the focal point, and he specifically mentioned Rockstar's Red Dead Redemption 2, so kind of interesting to see Miyazaki taking inspiration from a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, a very narrative-driven game. However, Red Dead Redemption 2, that game doesn't falter on its gameplay either, but the storytelling is incredibly strong in that game. Obviously, with the majority of titles that Miyazaki has worked on, they have been gameplay first, story second. Even with a game like Sekiro that does have a story that's more in your face than, say, the Souls games, it's easy to see that these games are not at the level of some of these story-driven titles from a storytelling standpoint. From a gameplay standpoint, they're as good as they come, and that's because they really focus on the gameplay, they focus on the presentation, the atmosphere, the world, things like that, to really immerse you into the experience, and then the story becomes something to just augment the overall experience, and that's obviously worked out rather well in the case of Souls and Sekiro. But if they do go the route of creating a more narrative-driven game like a Red Dead Redemption 2 in the future, I think that would be rather interesting. But at this point, that's just hearsay, and that's just something Miyazaki wants to do down the line. But speaking of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, I think it was a formality that the game was going to do incredibly well from a commercial standpoint. Well, now it's been confirmed by Activision that the game has done even better than some had expected, and here's what the press release stated. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice has brought something very special and unique to Activision's portfolio of games. It's been an honor to work with From Software to help introduce a brand new franchise to gamers around the world. The fans have made Sekiro Shadows Die Twice one of the most incredible game launches of 2019 thus far. The game has performed well on all platforms, and we're excited by the continued support from gamers and critics alike. It has been gratifying to see the enjoyment from fans when they overcome each challenge. And it was confirmed that the game has sold more than 2 million copies worldwide across PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, and that's in less than 10 days since it's been released. They also went over some other metrics that are rather interesting. The game has had more than 631 million minutes watched during launch weekend and 1.1 billion minutes watched on Twitch within 1 week. Those are some incredible numbers, and just based on people watching the game on Twitch, those are some pretty incredible numbers. Again, great to see Sekiro Shadows Die Twice do incredibly well. It seemed like Activision at the very least offered the promotional push that a game like Sekiro Shadows Die Twice utilized to be a very big commercial success, and we'll see where From Software goes from here. But there's a lot of avenues they can go. They could dig up one of their past franchises, they could continue with Souls, they could do more Sekiro, they could do something completely original, but From Software really has a lot of cards in their hands right now, and it'll be interesting to see what they play next. Next up, Guerrilla Games is a studio that we often talk about, and I often herald them as one of the elite game studios. Maybe some of you guys don't see them at the level of a Naughty Dog or or a Rockstar, but I think they're at the tier just below them. And what we saw with Horizon Zero Dawn was rather compelling. However, of course, Guerrilla Games is more so known for their work on another franchise, a multiplayer first-person shooter franchise in Killzone. Killzone was a sci-fi FPS that was such a compelling game. Outside of Killzone Shadowfall, which wasn't the greatest game in the world, it was an okay game. But Killzone 2 and 3 were rather remarkable first-person shooters. That's why it was so incredible to see them go from a sci-fi FPS to an open-world post-apocalyptic RPG in Horizon. That was a seismic shift. However, for a lot of you guys thinking that Guerrilla's next game is going to be a Horizon Zero Dawn 2, you might want to hold your horses on that a little bit. There has been some speculation on whether or not they're working on a new Killzone game, and based on a job listing, it seems like that might be the case. Specifically, they're looking for a Java developer to support their game tech team with the project for an unannounced title. Specifically, you're gonna build a robust backend that can scale up and serve many concurrent users. You'll work on systems like matchmaking, tournaments, clans, and leaderboards. You'll cooperate with game designers to achieve the vision for the game. You will work on systems to test and deploy a new server to set it without downtime. You will integrate the game servers within the PlayStation Network and other third-party services. You will keep up to date with the Java world and introduce new technologies when they are relevant for Guerrilla. And if you are comfortable with C++, you can help integrate the backend services in the game client. So that doesn't sound like Horizon Zero Dawn at all. Rather, that sounds like some sort of multiplayer game, and if you're talking about Guerrilla Games and you bring up the fact of multiplayer, that has to mean something in regards to Killzone. Now, PlayStation 5 is right around the corner. You imagine that's gearing up for a late 2020 release. Could a Killzone 5 be a launch game on the PlayStation 5, much like Killzone Shadowfall was on the PlayStation 4? Now, Killzone Shadowfall, that was probably the most anticipated game for the launch of the PlayStation 4. Unfortunately, from a quality standpoint, it wasn't at the level of KZ2 or 3. It was still a pretty interesting game, and from a technical standpoint, it definitely left our jaws on the floor. I mean, it really accentuated how powerful the PlayStation 4 was, and even to this day, all these years later, you're talking, what, close to 6 years later, that game still looks incredible. And a Killzone 5, if nothing else, if it's at the quality level of Shadowfall, which I would hope it would be a little bit better, but nonetheless, let's just say it's an okay game like Shadowfall. At the very least, you know that it's going to be a game that they can promote and use it as a promotional tool to accentuate the power of the PlayStation 5 and show off pretty visuals and whatever the case may be. Obviously, from a hardcore Killzone fan like myself, I want something more than just a glorified tech demo, but nonetheless, a Killzone 5 would be a pretty remarkable launch title for the PS5, and talk about promotional heaven. PS5 launches with Killzone 5, you got that technical prowess in that game. That just seems like a match made in heaven for that to happen, so let's hope that comes to fruition. We'll keep you guys posted on that, but based on this job listing, it's pretty much confirmed that Guerrilla is working on some sort of multiplayer experience, and outside of Killzone, what else could it be? Could they be doing a new IP? I just don't think that makes a lot of sense, since you have this established IP in Killzone, an IP that so many gamers want to see a new game out of, so hopefully that comes to fruition at some point. Next up, I did want to quickly highlight the reviews for Earth Defense Force Iron Rain. They are coming out, and they're not looking all too great. Right now, the game's got a 72 on OpenCritic, so definitely not a bad score, but some of the scores are coming in at around the 7.5 to 8 range, some a little bit lower than that. Chris Bauman of GameSpace gave the game a 7 out of 10, and he said, overall, the game itself is the standard shooter from a third-person viewpoint. The controls are basic enough for younger fans to play and not very difficult to learn. Earth Defense Force Iron Rain is a PlayStation 4 exclusive and is set to release on April 11, 2019, priced at $59.99. If you're a fan of the series, like a die-hard fan, definitely pick this up for yourself. If you're just someone looking at the game because it looks interesting, then I would wait until the price drops. Pretty much what I've been saying. I definitely would not have paid the price for this game just based on a gameplay trailer. I think that's the main issue with EDF Iron Rain. That price is just so hefty. At a $60 price point, just seeing everything that's available these days and the quality level of $60 games, the only games that were worth $60 are games like Resident Evil 2, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, Devil May Cry 5. The elite level games, yeah, drop $60 on that. Earth Defense Force Iron Rain, as much fun as I've had with EDF in the past, I just don't feel like it's at the caliber of a $60 release. Maybe you guys will disagree with me on that. Again, I've had a lot of fun with the series, and if you guys have too, by all means, buy the game. But I think for the majority of you guys that are just casual fans of the series or just looking to get into the series, wait for a sale, wait until it's $40 or less. And lastly, I did want to quickly run you guys through the top digital download chart for March on the PlayStation Store. The top downloads from 1 to 10 are as follows. Tom Clancy's The Division 2 was number 1. Number 2 was MLB The Show 19. 3 was Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. 4 was Devil May Cry 5. 5 was Grand Theft Auto 5 still. I believe the Great Indoor Sale was running last month. So the game was discounted, but damn, taking the number 5 spot, that's pretty impressive for a game as old as GTA 5. Number 6 was NBA 2K19, 7 was Minecraft PS4 edition, 8 was Far Cry New Dawn, 9 was Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, and number 10 was FIFA 19. So there you go, it looks like The Division 2 is doing rather well for itself, and as far as the multiplayer games that released this year, it's definitely being better received than, say, Anthem. And that's gonna conclude this video. Again, Hidetaka Miyazaki, the creator of Sekiro, wants to create a narrative-driven game at some point, maybe not his next game, but he is hearkening towards Red Dead Redemption 2 as inspiration, so that's rather interesting. As far as Sekiro is concerned, the game has sold over 2 million copies in just 10 days. Impressive numbers for that title. It looks like Guerrilla is going to be creating another multiplayer title, probably another Killzone, so we'll see how that turns out and we'll keep you guys posted. Earth Defense Force Iron Rain reviews are coming out. They're looking okay. Again, I would say to wait for a sale, and Tom Clancy's The Division 2 tops the top downloads for the month of March on the PlayStation Store. That's gonna conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.